This video is created with the purpose of reviewing some of the more important organelles of the cell and their functions. So we start with the cell wall. And the cell wall is basically an outer protective layer made of cellulose. It can also be made of chitin, but it is not present in all cells. Usually the type of cell you will see a cell wall in is a plant cell. Its function is it provides protection and support. So in a plant cell, it provides protection against bursting from too much or too little water. Next, we look at the flagella and the cilia. These are cellular extensions made up of microtubules. They provide motility, so whether the organism is trying to move towards food or move materials through the cell, they use the cilia and the flagella to do so. The plasma membrane. This is a lipid bilayer, meaning it is made up of two layers that has embedded proteins, and these proteins can have multiple functions. First, they can regulate what passes into and out of the cell. They also play a role in cell-to-cell recognition, so making sure that nothing foreign has entered your cell, also making sure that whatever enters your cell is supposed to be entering your cell, and same goes for whatever is leaving your cell. The endoplasmic reticulum, also called the ER. There are two types of this ER. There's the smooth ER, which is ribosome-free, and there's the rough ER, as you see in the picture, which is dotted with ribosomes. It's basically a network of internal membranes, so folded membranes that kind of stack on top of each other. And they form compartments and vesicles to transport things like proteins. So once a protein is made, the ER is going to package it and move it to wherever it needs to go. The nucleus, one of the most important organelles of the cell, is a structure that contains chromosomes and is surrounded by a double membrane. It is the control center of the cell. It directs protein synthesis, and it is also in charge of cell reproduction. So if you look at the picture of the nucleus, we have the outer membrane with nuclear pores, so that's what's going to allow things like DNA or RNA to leave the nucleus to go be made into a protein. The nucleus is important because it holds all your DNA in the form of chromosomes, as you can see in the blue. The nucleus also contains the nucleolus, which is basically a nucleus within the nucleus. So that's where your DNA is going to be held. The Golgi apparatus, stacks of flattened vesicles. Their job is to package proteins for export from the cell and also form secretory vesicles. So if you look at the picture, these little bubbles, these little lysosomes break off of the Golgi, and they contain something that needs to be removed from the cell. So they're like little UPS packages that you carry out of the cell. The mitochondria. These are bacteria-like elements with a double membrane. They also are a little bit rare because they have their own DNA. No other organelle has its own DNA. These are the power plants of the cell, so they produce the cell's energy. Chloroplasts are going to be found in plant cells, and these contain membranes with chlorophyll, which is your photosynthetic pigment. So its job is to undergo photosynthesis. Chromosomes. These are your long threads of DNA that form a complex with protein. They basically wind up the DNA onto these proteins called histones. They pack together and they create the compact little chromosome X that you see. These contain your hereditary information, all the genes that code for every protein, every trait that you see. It's all found in your chromosomes. The nucleolus, we talked about this a little bit when we talked about the nucleus. This is the site of genes for rRNA synthesis. rRNA is your ribosomal RNA, which is going to be responsible for making your ribosomes, which will then be responsible for protein synthesis. So again, assembles your ribosomes so they can go off and make proteins. Your ribosomes, they're small complex assemblies of protein and RNA, often bound to the endoplasmic reticulum. That's what makes the ER the rough ER. So you can find them attached to the ER. You can also find them free floating around the cytoplasm of the cell. So they will be in charge of protein synthesis. So that's the end of the organelle review for the cell. Check back for more videos in the future.